Claude Code can build pretty much anything you can imagine, apps, websites, and even businesses. But if you spend some time with it, you'll notice that Claude really gets dumb out of nowhere. It will forget things, it rewrites codes that worked before, keeps asking some of the same questions over and over. And you might think you did something wrong or that the prompts are really bad, but listen, it's not you. There's a really specific problem with how Claude Code works, and even the company that built it knows about it, and they still can't fix it. I could run a AI agency where I use Claude almost every day, and I don't have time to wait for an update. So I came up with 6 things you can do today to keep Claude from being dumb. Let's get into it. There's a specific mistake that even people who've been using Claude for a year are making. And listen, it's not their fault. Claude does a pretty bad job at telling you what you're doing. And the bad part is, it just slowly gets worse and worse until your whole project just falls apart. See, Claude doesn't go dumb all at once. It happens slowly over the course of that chat. For example, I'm building a life planner for myself right now, and in the first hour, Claude was really great. Everything looked clean, it was working fine. Then another hour passed, and Claude started repeating questions I'd already answered and using the wrong files. An hour after that, Claude decided to rewrite everything and made things look worse. The first time this happened to me, I thought there was, a server error or the new model was just bad. But what really happened was that Claude's brain got overwhelmed. Even Anthropic has a name for this, and it's called context rot. Basically, what this means is that the more information you give Claude, the less information it can recall. So all that stuff you said earlier after a long chat is basically lost. And a lot of people, including myself, think that correcting Claude will help fix the problem. In reality, it's just making it worse, because every new message and file that you paste in goes to Claude's brain, and everything starts fighting for its attention. So really, Claude isn't dumb, it just gets a little confused. The first way we can fix this is incredibly simple. You just have to start from scratch every time. When Claude Code starts to act dumb, just type /clear and it will start the chat from zero. It's like giving Claude Code a break to breathe and process the information. But here's another way you can approach this. I don't know about you, but if I look at my browser right now, I've got about 14 different tabs open, and that's because I can only open one website per tab. Gmail's one tab, the doc I'm writing is in another, and YouTube is in another. And it may sound messy, but that's how you should use Claude. One Claude chat should have one job. And when that job is done, you close that chat. Now, we can't really open multiple chats on the desktop app, so what I'm going to show you is an easy way to set this up. First, install VS Code if you don't have it. It's free and the most popular code editor in the world. Inside VS Code, click on the Extensions tab, search Claude Code, and click Install. The extension is just an add-on that puts Claude inside VS Code. Then sign in with your Anthropic account. Now you can open multiple Claude chats in separate tabs inside VS Code by clicking on Claude's logo on the top. You can have one writing code and you can have another fixing bugs, and the other one is just the formatting code. And that way you're not using space in Claude's brain with information it just doesn't need to do the task. Now we're going to talk about something that almost no one outside of senior development circles even know about. In the last section, we set it up so that every tab in VS Code is its own Claude chat. Here's where we take it a step further. Inside any of those chats, Claude can become a manager that hires employees for the work. And each employee has one specific job. They're called sub-agents. Think of it like an actual team at one job. One employee reads the files for you, one reviews code, and one writes emails. Each one has its own brain and set of instructions to do its job. Then they report back to the main Claude chat with a clean summary of what they found. Now, let's take my life planner app for example. I want to build a feature where the meal tracker pulls recipes from a folder of saved files. If I tell Claude to do this, it'll need to read all the files, figure out the format, and plan the integration. But if Claude reads all 30 recipe files in that main chat, that chat is now full of recipe data. And by the time it's done reading, it's so overloaded that it forgets what the rest of the app even does. So I'd burn through the whole context just reading the files. But if I send it to a sub-agent to read those files instead, then the sub-agent does the reading on its own brain. Then it comes back to my main chat with one clean answer about the recipe format. And because it has its own brain, the main Claude chat only gets the information that it needs. So let me show you how to build your own subagents. In Claude Code, type \agents and hit enter. Then it's going to ask you the name of the agent, what its job is, and what it's allowed to do. Really, you don't have to know any of this stuff. Just answer the questions and Claude will handle the rest of the setup so you can create the subagents. Here are 2 things you should know about this. First, the most important part of this whole setup is the description. That's because the description is what Claude reads to decide when to actually use the subagent, which just means if you write something vague like helps with code stuff, Claude won't know when to use it. Be specific and tell it exactly when to use it. Something like, use this subagent anytime I ask you to read more than 5 files at a time. The second thing you need to know is that by default, every time you start a new chat, your subagents have amnesia. They don't remember anything outside of what Claude wrote as instructions. But you can just ask Claude to create a file called memory.empty, and that will be updated every time you use it or give it feedback. So every time you use the agent, it'll get smarter. Your email writer subagent will remember your tone, and your code reviewer will remember the mistakes you didn't want repeated. So here's the rule. Anytime you need to do a task that requires a lot of context, create a subagent for it. Things like writing a lot of files, reviewing code, or fixing multiple bugs. This way, you'll use the brain of those subagents so Claude can stay sharp. Next move is by far the most important thing of this entire video. You need to stop letting Claude code. Let me explain. Right now, the second you ask Claude to do something, it starts coding right away. And honestly, that feels amazing. You just type a few words and start building what you want. But that's exactly why your project keeps breaking. Claude is rushing, pushing assumptions about what you want and picking the first solution it can, but not necessarily the right one. That means you could, end up with something completely different than what you wanted and something that doesn't work. So to get the best result right from the start, you should use a feature called plan mode. This mode makes Claude think, plan, and ask questions. You can't touch your code until you approve the plan. It's like your own little contractor showing you blueprints. So you'll see exactly how your house will look and have the chance to make changes before it starts building it. Now, turning on this mode is really simple. So what you're gonna do is open Claude Code in VS Code, and then you're gonna press Shift Tab to cycle through those modes. There are 3. So default, that's where Claude asks before each change. Auto accept, that's where Claude just does the thing. And then plan mode. Now describe what you want and Claude will ask clarifying questions and help you write a full plan. Let's say I tell Claude I want to add a calendar feature where I can drag and drop tasks into time slots. And instead of just coding, Claude comes back with questions like, are these tasks coming from your existing task list or are they new ones? What happens when tasks overlap with another time block? Honestly, I'd never think to clarify some of those questions on my own. And if Claude had just started coding, it would have just guessed the answer rather than do what I wanted. So after I answer any questions, I just need to read the plan that Claude gives me and tweak the parts I don't like. Then I let it code, and it'll build the right thing without making any dumb errors that need fixing later. Plan mode will save you hours today. But to get Claude to be reliable at hard problems, you need to stop trusting Claude's brain. Turns out, Claude's brain has one flaw. It works by pattern matching. It looks at your problems, finds the closest thing it's seen before, and gives you that answer. And most of the time, that's fine. But when the problem is unusual or complex, Claude commits to the closest pattern, even if it's wrong. So you can't really trust Claude's brain. But what you can do is make it better with a free plugin. Just type this into Claude's chat inside VS Code. So it'll start installing something called sequential thinking. So this will force Claude to slow down its reasoning, break problems into steps, and review them as it goes. So instead of jumping to the closest pattern, it'll actually think about the problem and come up with a solution. The good news is that you don't have to remember to turn it on for every chat. Once it's installed, it activates automatically when Claude sees a complex problem. So now Claude is officially smarter than 95% of setups out there. But even with all of that, you're still going to hit one more wall. 80% of what you ask Claude to do is the same 5 things. You just don't realize it because these tasks were spread across weeks. Things like code reviews, setup, bug investigations, and writing docs. And every time you open a new chat, you have to type the same context and the same instructions every week. That's almost an hour every day that you could be using for something else. Believe me, I have typed the exact paragraph maybe 50 times before I realized I could let Claude do that for me. And the way I did that was creating custom skills. A skill is like a little introduction manual you save into Claude Code. What this is it tells Claude exactly how you want a specific task done, the libraries you will use, the rules to follow, and the format you want. Basically, all the stuff you've been typing out manually every time. Now, another reason why you want to create a skill is because of context raw. Basically, it stops Claude from being dumb. Remember when we said every message you send fills up Claude's brain? Well, every long setup prompt you type at the start of a chat is doing that too. Every word you type explaining how to do something is another word in context brain. But with a skill, the instructions live outside that chat, and the Claude doesn't load them unless it needs them. Now, the good news is that you don't have to write all the docs that a skill needs. You can just use the built-in skill creator to write them for you. So first, what you're going to do is open a chat window inside of VS Code, and then you're going to type /skill creator and explain the tasks, the outcome, and the rules you want it to follow. Then the skill creator asks for the description. Get specific. The description field is what Claude will read when deciding if it needs to read the skill or not. So don't type something like helps with code review. Write something like use this skill whenever the user asks for a code review, asks to check code quality, mentions reviewing my code, or asks if anything looks wrong in a file. Always trigger this when reviewing files. Now, this is the most important part. Customize the skill to you. The whole point of skills is that they're built around your project, your voice, and your rules. And the best way to do that is to build skills while you work. Every time you catch yourself typing out a long prompt, stop before you hit enter and ask one question. Am I going to type this again? If the answer is yes, type /skill creator, build the skill, and run it for the first time on the task you're already doing. If you do this every day for 1 month, you'll have 5 or 6 really good custom skills that will save you months of writing and repeating yourself. So that's what you can do to stop Claude Code from being dumb. Now, here's something I didn't mention before. You can use what you've learned today and make your life easier, but you can also use it to build a one-person business. And I explain how to build my $25 million business from zero in this video right here. So go watch it right now, and I'll see you again in the next one.